Doug Rader went over 5 through 9 innings. And that's exactly why this is the right Doug Rader game. Because if you only skim the box score, you can misread the whole night. You see Houston score 4 runs in the first. You can see the Pirates crawl all the way back, and you see extra innings. There's a rookie named Dave Parker putting Pittsburgh ahead in the 12th. And then at the very last moment, you see the man who had been hiding in plain sight all day turn one swing into the entire story. And that's baseball at its meanest and most generous. It lets you fail all evening and still hands you the last word. Tonight, the hero's Doug Rader, not because he dominated every inning. He didn't. Because he endured every inning, stayed in the fight, and when the game finally demanded one clean answer, he gave it. Houston beat Pittsburgh 8-6 in 12 innings at the Astrodome, with Rader's 3-run homer ending it. Welcome back to the Astros 100. I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. Tonight it's Doug Rader. The date, May 8th, 1974. Pittsburgh Pirates at Houston Astros. It's a night game in the Astrodome. Artificial turf, 11,266 on hand. The Astros won 8-6 in 12 innings, moved to 19-11, and the Pirates fall to 8-16. On paper, Rader finishes with 1 hit and 3 RBI. In reality, he finishes with the swing that erases the rest of his lousy night. Houston's at an interesting place here. This is the club's first season under Preston Gomez, who took over after Leo DeRocher. The Astros had gone 82-80 in 1973, and by the end of this game, they're sitting at 19-11, looking like one of the better surprises in the National League. Lee May had just been scorching hot enough to win NL Player of the Week for April 29th through May 5th. But this season doesn't turn into a pennant race. Houston eventually settles at 81-81, fourth in the NL West, while Doug Rader wins his 5th straight Gold Glove, and Greg Gross earns the Sporting News NL Rookie of the Year honors. Pittsburgh is the opposite kind of story. On this night, they look ragged. And the record says so, 8-16. But this is not a bad team. It's a slow starting team. Danny Murtaugh's club eventually recovers all the way to 88-74, wins the NL East, and reaches the NLCS, where the Pirates lose to the Dodgers in 4 games. So this game matters partly because it catches a division winner at its most vulnerable. The larger baseball world in May of 1974 still feels like it's vibrating from Hank Aaron's 715th home run. That record-breaking swing had landed on April 8th, and the sport was still living in the aftershock. At almost the same time, the season started producing its own weirdness. On May 1st, Doc Ellis of the Pirates hit 3 batters consecutively in the first inning, setting a major league record you don't really want. Looming over the National League is Los Angeles, building the kind of machine that turns into the 1974 pennant winner. So this isn't some sleepy regular season nothing. This is a league in motion. Aaron has just broken the biggest record in the sport. The Dodgers are rising. The Pirates are stumbling, but dangerous. Houston's trying to prove its hot start is real. And inside the dome, Doug Rader's about to give you one of those very specific regular season endings that only baseball can produce. The part that makes me mad, though, 11,266. That's it. A 19-11 Houston club. The Pirates in town with Willie Stargell in the lineup. Cesar Cedeno on the field, Bob Watson, Lee May in the middle of the order. Doug Rader at third, and you get an extra inning game that detonates in the 12th inning. The house is barely over 11,000. I know the dome could mute everything. I know regular season baseball's long. And I know weekday crowds are weekday crowds. I still hate it because this deserves more witnesses. And inside the game, the second thing that makes me mad is that Houston nearly wastes the opening. 5 runs before Pittsburgh even understands what kind of game it's going to be. And then the Astros spend the next several hours trying to hand it back. That's the emotional architecture of this game. A great start and a messy middle with last-second rescue. Preston Gomez is a fascinating baseball lifer. Cuban-born, long minor league and coaching background. Briefly a major leaguer as a player, then a manager for San Diego, Houston, and later the Cubs. Houston promoted him into this Astros job for 1974 after DeRocher stepped aside. And this season became the only full year in which one of Gomez's big league teams finished at 500 or better. Across from him is Danny Murtaugh, one of baseball's great repeat retirees and one of the great old school baseball quote machines. Pittsburgh, he's already managed Pittsburgh to a World Series title in 1960 and would keep cycling back into the job because the Pirates kept trusting him. He's exactly the kind of manager who feels correct for this lineup. Loose in the mouth, tough in posture, very comfortable around strong personality. The starters are both lefties, but they're at very different career moments. Claude Osteen is the veteran. By the time he gets to Houston, he's already a three-time All-Star and has posted 10 straight double-digit win victories totals from 1964 through 1973. He arrived in Houston in the winter trade that sent Jimmy Wynn to LA. Jerry Royce, on the other hand, is only 24 here, a St. Louis product and a former second-round Cardinals pick. Still closer to promising lefty than the finished article, even though his career will eventually roll well past 200 wins. The clean Hall of Fame answer in this game is Willie Stargell. He's the one obvious Cooperstown presence in the starting lineups, and he's not here as a ceremonial name either. He's still a real threat, still the beating emotional center of the Pirates, and Baseball Hall materials describe him exactly the way everybody remembers: a feared power hitter, a field leader, and a clubhouse force. But the lineup has more weight than just one plaque. Pittsburgh also brings Al Oliver, Manny Sanguillen, Richie Zisk, and a young Dave Parker, who's the orbit of this game. Houston counters with Cesar Cedeno, Bob Watson, Lee May, Milt May, Tommy Helms, and of course, Rader. So even if the Hall count is light, the all-time baseball name count is strong. This is not anonymous regular season traffic. These are real players on both sides. I don't see any evidence of some famous pregame war of words here, and I don't intend to invent one. This module is really just standings, form, and baseball ego. Baseball already beat Pittsburgh 2-1 the night before, and these two clubs had already been bouncing results off one another in late April and early May. So there's no need for a formal rivalry speech when one club is 8-15 and the other is 18-11. The insult's already embedded in the records, and the challenge is built into the series itself. The best common thread is actually Claude Osteen. He's on the mound for Houston because the Astros made the winter decision to move Jimmy Wynn to LA for pitching help. That's one of those trades that lives in two timelines at once. Houston gets veteran left-handed innings, and the Dodgers get Wynn, and Wynn helps them reach the 1974 World Series. So when you watch this game, you're watching one small chapter of a trade that echoes across the whole league. Now, we have a side quest today, Dave Parker. Astro Daily's 1974 timeline flags exactly why. Rookie Dave Parker, in for Richie Zisk, hits a go-ahead solo shot in the 12th that looks like it might steal the whole spotlight for Pittsburgh before Rader answers in the second half. That's tremendous baseball structure. One future star briefly hijacks the ending. Then the episode swerves back to the man it was supposed to belong to all along. This also gives the game a little bit extra electricity in retrospect. It's not just Astros versus Pirates. It's an older, already established Doug Rader sharing a late game stage with a rookie Parker, who's just beginning to step into the larger baseball picture. Doug Rader's full name is Douglas Lee Rader. He's born in Chicago, July 30th, 1944. Attended Illinois Wesleyan, debuted in the majors July 31st, 1967, and carried the nicknames Rojo and the Red Rooster. He spent most of his playing identity with the Astros and built it from two things: real defensive reputation and enough power to matter. By the time we get to this 1974 game, Rader is already a known quantity in Houston. He's become the everyday third baseman. He hit 25 home runs in 1970, 22 in 1972, and 21 last year. In 1974, he bats .257 with 17 home runs and 78 RBI while winning his fifth straight Gold Glove. He's not the smooth, romantic hero type. He's more practical. Tough glove, real arm, enough pop, durable presence. Exactly the sort of player a long season keeps proving useful. And this game matters for Rader because it condenses his whole personality, his whole baseball personality, into one night. He's not perfect in it. He's not constantly central. He's not the clean box score king of it. Instead, he's the guy who's hanging around, defending his position, absorbing an ugly offensive line for most of the night, and then he detonates the ending. That's not a glamorous baseball lesson, but it's a true one. It also pushes back against the easy, lazy version of Doug Rader as glove first, bat second. That's broadly fair over his entire career. But games like this remind you the bat could still decide a room. Five-time Gold Glove third baseman, who can also end a 12-inning game with one swing, is not just ornamental defense. He's a real winning ball player. Excuse me. Houston Houston jumps the game immediately. Claude Austin works a clean top of the first. Then in the bottom half, Ollie Brown walks, Cesar Cedeno walks, and Bob Watson doubles to left, scoring two. Cliff Johnson then hits a two-run homer. Before Jerry Royce can even settle, the Astros are up 4-0. An inning later, Brown homers to make it 5-0, and at that point, feels less like a tense night and more like a Houston cruise. Then the game turns mean. Pittsburgh does nothing in the second or the third, but the fourth inning's the hinge. Al Oliver singles, Willie Stargell reaches on an error, Richie Zisk singles in a run, Manny Sanguian doubles home two more. Then Richie Hebner and Frank Tavares add sacrifice flies, one each. Just like that, the 5-run lead is down to 5-4, and now the whole game changes shape. Houston no longer feels in control, feels exposed. The Astros fail to add on. The Pirates keep leaning. In the seventh, Al Oliver triples home Randy Stennett to tie it 5-5. From there, the game becomes a bullpen and nerve contest, which is exactly the kind of game the Astrodome could stretch into something strange. Now, Houston has chances. In the ninth, Tommy Helms singles, and Larry Milbourne runs for him. Greg Gross comes up as a pinch hitter, and the Astros generate just enough disorder to make the crowd lean forward. Gross winds up stealing second and moving into scoring position during the chaos, but Houston can't cash it in. In the 10th, Pittsburgh gets a huge opening when Stargell doubles and Dave Parker singles, but Houston wriggles out of it. In the 11th, the Astros put men aboard again and still can't land the blow. Then the 12th, Mike Nagy gets Willie Stargell on the lineout, but Dave Parker hits a solo homer to left. Suddenly, Pittsburgh leads 6-5. It's a cruel little twist because the Pirates spent the whole night chasing, and now, at the very edge of the game, they finally move in front. Bottom 12, Bob Watson singles. Lee May records the first out on a foul pop. Milt May walks. And now, Doug Rader comes up. This is the key emotional fact. He's not had a good offensive night. He's been sitting in the game, accumulating frustration, and looking like a candidate for the quiet footnote version of the evening. Then he gets Chip Sadowski, and he hits a 3-run homer. The Astros win 8-6. Game over, one swing. And it wipes out the arithmetic of the earlier at-bats and hands Rader the night. The Baseball Reference top plays table reflects it too. Rader's homer is the biggest swing in the game by win probability, bigger even than Parker's temporary theft in the top half of the 12th. For Houston, this game is proof of two contradictory things. One, the Astros are good enough to beat good players, even after they lose command of the game. And two, they're still flimsy enough to turn a clean 5-0 start into a survival exercise. That combination is basically the 1974 Astros in miniature. Competent, interesting, occasionally dangerous, but not stable enough to become the Dodgers or the Reds. For Pittsburgh, the lesson's different. This is one more scratch in a brutal opening stretch. But because we know the ending of their season, this loss becomes a reminder not to overread April and May. The Pirates leave Houston 8-16 and still wind up winning the division. So this is not their obituary. It's just one of the ugly early chapters before the real club finally appeared. A casual fan should care about this game because it teaches the best cruel joke in baseball. The hero doesn't have to look like the hero until the final page. Doug Rader can basically be absent as an offensive force for most of the night and still be the correct subject. A reliever can cough up the lead and still not be the real villain because the game keeps moving. A rookie can appear to steal the ending and still wind up as the prelude. Baseball does this better than any other sport. It lets the meaning of the game stay unfinished, almost to the last swing. And for a brand new fan, the game is also perfect because it has all the shapes: a quick lead, slow comeback, bullpen escape, extra innings, temporary heartbreak, immediate reversal. You don't need actual footage to explain why that's fun. The structure itself is enough. There's no preserved post-game transcript in the material I'm using, so this section's a reconstruction of the room, not a verbatim quote dump. Doug Rader probably gets the obvious first question: what do you do mentally after a night like that, when you're mostly quiet and the game lands on your bat? The honest baseball is usually boring. You stay in the game, you wait, and you do not let the previous at-bats negotiate the current one. Preston Gomez probably gets 2 lines of questioning in at once. One's release strategy. Why this arm here? Why that arm there? How close did Houston come to losing a game it should have won? The other is softer and more human. What does it do to a club to see a veteran like Rader rescue a game after such a rough offensive line? On the offensive side for Pittsburgh, the room is probably uglier. Parker gets asked about the homer that should have mattered. The bullpen gets asked about a 1-run lead and 2 base runners becoming a loss before the inning could even breathe. Murtaugh, because he's Murtaugh, probably gives somebody the best line in the room and still leaves annoyed. The Astros didn't turn this game into a pennant. They finished 81-81, 4th in the West, 21 games back of the Dodgers. But the season still produced real value individually. Cedeno made the All-Star team. Rader got Gold Glove number 5, and Greg Gross hit .314 and took home the National League Sporting News Rookie of the Year award. The Pirates, meanwhile, authored the bigger team correction. They shook off the ugly beginning, reached 88-74, won the NL East, and then lost the NLCS to Los Angeles. So if you're telling the story of 1974 honestly, this game belongs in both files. Houston has a dramatic regular season win, and Pittsburgh's as one more early stumble on the road to becoming itself. Rader's 1974 season ends up being one of the cleaner late Astros years of his career. Best batting average since 1968, 17 homers, 78 RBI, 5th straight Gold Glove. After 1975, he's traded to San Diego, later lands with Toronto, and after his playing days, he moves into managing and coaching, including managerial runs with the Rangers, White Sox, and Angels. His career run closes at 1,302 hits, 155 home runs, and 722 RBI. So this game sits in a useful place in his biography. It's not the beginning of Doug Rader. It's not the end either. It's something better for this project. A representative night, a good glove, uneven offense, stubborn presence, and then sudden thunder. If you want one regular season game to explain why a player like Doug Rader matters to a franchise history, this works. Next time, we go to Greg Gross. And I like the bridge between these 2 episodes because Gross, right here, is already in the game as a nuisance piece. He arrives off the bench in the 9th, creates motion, steals a base, and then helps turn a quiet inning into a live one. Later that same season, he becomes a .314 hitter and the Sporting News NL Rookie of the Year. So the next episode is already peeking out from the edges of this one. Anyway, Doug Rader is the kind of player a big project like this is built to rescue from flattening. If you only read the summary line, you get the result. If you sit in the game, you get the person. You get the veteran third baseman with the hard-earned reputation, the 5 Gold Gloves, the red hair nickname, the not always pretty offensive profile, and the one clean, violent answer at the very end of a long night in the Dome. Astro 16 is not about Doug Rader being perfect. It's about Doug Rader still being there when perfection is no longer available. Sometimes that's better. All right, well, thanks for watching. We're going to get into our unboxing. The date ends in 0, March 30th, so we're doing an unboxing. It's always team-oriented to cover the team I'm reviewing right now. Watching last week, you saw me unbox the Astros key holder, and now we get, wait a minute, is this a mistake? Interesting. Golden State Warriors. What do you make of that, huh? Okay, well, thanks for watching. Everybody, have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow night.